Hi, and welcome to part 1 of Vertx Flight Simulation multi-part series that will dive in-depth to systems, management, and flights in our DA62 from Diamond aircraft. In part 1, we will go over a basic flight from Chicago's Midway Airport to Waukesha Airport in Wisconsin. During this flight, we'll go over basic systems within the Diamond DA62, and we'll take you all the way from a cold and dark departure here from Chicago Midway, all the way up to Waukesha Airport, up to the gate, and shutting the aircraft all the way down. As you can see right now, the aircraft is in a complete cold and dark state. Absolutely nothing's turned on. If you come to the outside of the aircraft, we'll also see nothing's connected. No other options have been turned on the aircraft. So the first thing we're going to do when we come inside of the aircraft is we're going to turn on our electrical masters. Now, with the Diamond DA62, inside of a config app, there'll be a separate video that will talk about the ins and out of the configuration app for the Diamond DA62. You'll currently see that once we turn on the electrical masters, the G1000s are almost an exact replication and rendition of Garmin's G1000, which is provided in the Diamond DA62. Once the electrical master is online, the G1000s will go through their self-test phase as well as their initialization startup phase, which you're seeing right now. This can normally take anywhere from about 45 seconds all the way to 60 seconds. At which point we can go ahead and come and just hit the Enter soft key on the G1000 MFD to bring us to our maps view. Now, at this time, I'd like to go and get the engine started up since this is a short flight, and I'd like to go and get moving here out of Midway. We're going to open up here, and we will go and turn on our fuel control for the left and right engine all the way to on. We'll then go and take the safety guards for the fuel selectors and arm both of the safety guards. We'll go and put that back down, and then we'll come here and we'll turn on the masters for each engine. On the left and right engine, this is a twin prop aircraft, so this is not a turboprop aircraft. There is no turbine that powers these engines. These are still just regular prop engines in this case. So we're going to turn on the engines. You'll see a momentarily warning that was up on our PFD, which just spoke momentarily about some glow plugs, and those glow plugs which are warming up inside of the engines. We'll talk about those a little bit more in depth here once we begin our departure. Now that we've started up our masters, we can go and turn on our fuel pumps to the left and right. We'll go and turn these on momentarily while we start the engines. At which point we have a prop clear, no one's in the area, no other aircraft, no wing walkers or anything else is in the area. At which point I've realized the throttles are confirmed idle, or 0, and our parking brake is set. At which point we can go and begin the engine startup in the Diamond DA62. And with that, it's as easy as just pushing a button. We'll go and push and hold the start left button, and the left engine will go and start up on the DA62. We'll then come over to our MFD. We'll see the load percentage, which normally between startup will range from anywhere from 7 to 11 with your throttles being at idle. You'll see our RPMs will stabilize just around 715 to 720 revolutions per minute. With the DA62, this is a very complex airplane, almost being study level, but we do not market it as a study level aircraft. You'll see the oil temperature on the left engine is slowly rising, and this must rise to in the green range before we will start a departure here out of Midway. As well as our oil pressure is now in the green, which we've checked. Our coolant temperature is on the rise, our fuel temperature is nice and steady, and our fuel quantity is checked for this flight, which is just about 17 gallons in each tank. And for this flight, we're going to be planning on burning just around 7 to 8 gallons per hour on each engine, for a total of about 16 to 17 gallons an hour for this very short flight up to Waukesha County. Now at this point the left engine is on, we can go and turn on our left alternator, and if we come over to our DA62 on the MFD, we'll go and come to Engine and Systems, and you'll now see that we have 28.2 volts and we have 17 amps to verify that they are currently charging the batteries at this time. Gearbox temperature is still a little cold, and that's still coming up, and you'll also see the coolant temperature is still rising. At which point we can now go and start up our right engine. And the same thing, we're going to look for, we've got between 7 and 11, we had a slight jump to a 15% load there on the right engine during startup. We're now stabilized back at 9%, and we have our RPMs once again between 715 and 720. Back on the engine page, we now see our oil temperature rising, our oil pressure in the green, and the coolant temperature now rising. And we'll once again just take a quick look over fuel temperature and the fuel quantity gauge to verify that we have no major issues or any changes that are currently going on. At which point now we can go and switch on our right-hand alternator. which will come back to our system to still verify 28.2 amps, and we have plus 17 on each side showing the engine and the alternators are currently charging the batteries in the DA62. You also have a bar there for your de-icing fluid. This aircraft does have a fully functional de-icing system built into the aircraft, and that panel is just here on the left. So, now that the aircraft is started up, we'll go and turn on some instrumentation lighting here, as well as we'll go and turn on some cockpit floodlights just to give us a little bit more brightness. When I come here, we can come to the cautions on the PFD to see any current alerts that we have. In this case, we have our pitot heat on our left and right side. So we'll come here and go and click on our pitot heat, and those warnings will all go away. Now before we depart here, we verify our position lights are on and our strobe lights are on, and we'll go down here and do a quick gear and fire test. At which point you'll then see the warnings pop up on the PFD for a right engine fire and a left engine fire, as well as the check gear sound, which is an audible beeping sound fairly quickly, which you can hear right now. At which point you can come here to warnings, and we could have went through the process of each warning to see what was going on with the aircraft. So for right now, I'm going to go and set an initial altitude after we go and turn on our avionics master switch here. This will be a little bit of an installation period, which you just heard us connect onto the VATSIM network in the background there. You'll now see everything's on, and we have no major errors anywhere or anything that's currently going on. We're going to set our initial altitude to Waukesha, which is going to be 6,000. This does have a fully functional autopilot in, as well with CWS or control wheel steering for those who are not familiar with that. And we can determine and show that off a little bit more here after the departure. So to put a flight plan in here, we have a very basic flight plan up to Waukesha. We're going to go and come here and use our small dial to go and select where we currently are. And we'll go ahead and put in here that we are departing Chicago Midway. So that'll be Kilo, Mike, Delta, Whiskey. So as we do that here, we'll go and come to Kilo, Mike, Delta, and then Whiskey. Alright, there we go. And now we have Chicago Midway. And then after our departure, you can also use your keyboard once you've selected one like this. We can come here and put in Northbrook, and then also our Waukesha Airport for Kilo Uniform Echo Sierra. So, now that we have that all done there, we can just go and deselect that in the G1000. Since we don't have arrival or anything, we do not have any VNAV waypoints, but we could set in vertical target altitudes to maintain, let's say, over Northbrook. So, in this case, we can now that our flight plan is in here, we don't have any procedures. We'll select an approach, perhaps when we just get a little bit closer, depending on the weather. Verify that our ELT is in the arm position and our oxygen is plenty for this flight. We're not going to require any, as we'll only be going at 6,000. We'll also go and set an altimeter here for Chicago Midway, which is 3023, which we can now verify the field elevation at Chicago Midway Airport. So, now that that is completed, we can now go and get the aircraft ready for taxi. At this point, we'd go ahead and flash our taxi light just to let the ground crew know that we are going, and we'll go and release our parking brake, and we'll slowly accelerate the engines to move here out of our parking position here at Chicago Midway. Now, it does require a fairly large amount of power to get the aircraft moving. This is a fairly large aircraft, but also with very bulky landing gear, and they do take a fair bit of power to get moving. I would say anywhere in between the 25 to 35% range on load is where you can really get the aircraft to start moving in a very gentle manner like we are right now. So, at this point, I'll just go and pop up here, and it appears that the Chicago approach is sadly signed off. So in this case, we'll just go and have our departure here out of Chicago Midway by ourselves. So, as we come here out of Chicago Midway, I have already pulled up the weather and the ATIS for Midway, and we're going to be departing now more than likely off of runway 31 left here. So if we come to the outside view of the aircraft, you can see all the lights, external lights, and you can also see inside the cabin of the aircraft. So we'll pull out here and we'll make a left turn just on Foxtrot for runway 31 left. Once again, this is a very bulky aircraft, but honestly it's very easy to maneuver. It still does require a fair bit of power in the taxiing, but once it gets moving, it wants to go. So, once we go and make this turn here, we'll go and make a right on Foxtrot 4, and then we'll prepare for our departure here out of Chicago Midway. We'll go and idle our engines as we just get ready to make this turn here on Foxtrot 4. Alright, and this is a point where we really like to take the pride in what we do here at Vertx, and this is where we go through each system and we take the time to go through these systems to see how they are in the real world and how they react with the actual aircraft. So inside of the Diamond DA62 it does have something called an ECU, or an engine control unit. This is almost like a FADEC for the aircraft and will take care of anything for the engines, and basically it allows you to do the run-up without you doing anything inside of the aircraft. So normally you would push both of these buttons here on the bottom left for the ECU test on the left hand and right hand engine. You can left click on each individual ECU to do an individual test, or since we are in the simulator world and we can't physically press the buttons, we can just go and right click on either one of them to do the test. Now when you're inside of the test, you'll see that it'll automatically bring the power percentage up, and then we'll also cycle through the prop ranges. During this you will realize and observe that the throttle levers do not move at all during this process, and that is a real rendition of how the test is actually performed inside of the real Diamond DA62. At this point we'll verify that all of our ECUs are both set to auto. There are 2 ECUs on each engine, A and B, and the auto will allow the computer to determine which ECU to use for this flight. So we'll go and come here, we'll right click and hold on the left ECU test. You'll see some warnings come up for ECU Bravo fail, and if we come over here to our MFD, you'll see the engine gets cycled in a high power, just up to about 73 in this case, and you'll see it then cycle through the power load as well as through the prop range. You'll now see it'll fail the Alpha ECU and then do a test with the Bravo ECU, which you'll see the same test is now being performed right now, cycling through the prop ranges and the throttle ranges. At which point the process and the ECU check will be done when both engines will go back to their proper idle position of once again around 715 RPMs, and 9% load should be your idle. And you'll also see that the warnings have now disappeared off of our PFD. At which point that is really your before takeoff checks. There's nothing else to do inside of the aircraft, and we are ready for departure out of Chicago Midway. So we'll go ahead and turn on our landing light. We'll go ahead and bump our power up to just about 30% or so to go and get our turn here onto runway 31 left here at Chicago Midway. And we'll go and check our final here, and it appears final is clear. I'm going to start the turn here on the runway. Alright, here we are. And we'll go ahead and get on the brakes. We'll go 50% power. And we'll go full power and let off the brakes. We'll go to 99% load in the yellow. It's completely understandable, and just shy of 2,300 on the RPMs on each engine. It's a little bit windy here out of Midway. I have about an 11 knot crosswind right now. So we just passed our rotation speed of 80 knots and a very smooth and graceful takeoff. And now here we are, climbing out 600 feet per minute, still gaining airspeed, flaps still in takeoff position. And we're positive rate of climb, no runway remaining, and we'll pull the gear up at this point. Gear is now coming up, and we can now go and select flaps up as well. Flaps up, and we'll just go and trim here for our departure. We can also now go and turn off our fuel pumps on both engines as we now climb here out of Chicago Midway. Now we'll go ahead and turn on our autopilot here. We'll go and select our vertical speed mode, and we'll select this for just about 1,200 feet per minute our departure, and we'll arm our navigation. At which point we can then go and come here and turn on the autopilot, which will also enable our yaw damper now after departure. We'll now go and come into the MFD. We'll come to flight plan, and we'll select Northbrook, the direct to button, and enter 2 times. At which point we've now selected a track for direct to the Northbrook VOR, which the aircraft is now currently turning to. And now you'll see us, we're climbing just about out of 2,100. I'll go and turn off our landing and our taxiway lights, and I'll dim our floodlights just a little bit for our departure here. And we want to be climbing out at just about 125 out of Chicago Midway. So, at this point, I hope you enjoy the departure out of Chicago Midway. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording here, and then we can go ahead and resume once we get ready to begin our descent into Waukesha County for the approach. To Mike Woodco. Alright, so like I said, as we're getting ready here, we're on VATSIM with Milwaukee approach as we're getting ready to come here into Waukesha Airport. I already have the ASOS there for Waukesha. Currently, the wind's looking 290 at 3 with 10 miles. Clear skies, -12, -16, and 3022 on the altimeter. We're here at 6,000. We're just going to pull back on our power a bit. We're just set up for the ILS to runway 10 here into Waukesha, and you can see that here on the MFD. It does have altitudes that are set in there for 2,300 and 1,500 or above on the approach. We're going to be turning in over Waka, which we're currently proceeding direct to about 22 miles out, and we'll get our approach clearance from over at Waka at that time. So, as we're currently proceeding about, I just wanted to talk a bit about the DA62 and a little bit about the features that we're going to have upon our arrival here into Waukesha Airport. And DA62, Total Mike has the weather for Waukesha.
Digital to Mike, thank you. Cross Waka at or above 2,800. Cleared ILS, runway 10 approach, and advise procedure turn inbound Waukesha.
Alright, we'll cross Waka at or above 2,800, and we just thought I'd let you know, are you going to be able to vector us a bit out to the west? We'd like to just make a straight in just a few miles outside of Waka.
MDW, like affirmative, I can vector you a little out westbound and confirm, was it going to be the RNAV or the ILS that you wanted to do? 10.
62 Delta Mike, it's for the ILS runway 10.
6 to Mike, Roger, fly heading 320, vector is ILS 10.
Fly heading 320, 62 Delta Mike. Alright, so we're going to turn left here to 320, and I'll go ahead and put up a picture of the plate right now, so we can go ahead and take a look at that. So, yep, we're going to go ahead and take it here. He's going to fly us out just a bit to the west here so we can go and get about 3 miles out.
And maintain 2,800.
Alright, 2,800, 62 Delta Mike. Alright, so we're going to start our descent here. We'll get ready to pull back on the power as we start a descent here. And we'll go into a vertical speed mode of just about 900 feet per minute down to 2,800 to get into Waukesha and set up for the ILS runway 10. So during this time, we're on heading a 320 just so we can get about 2 to 3 miles outside of Waka, so we can just make a nice, quick, short, straight-in approach from Waka on the ILS to Waukesha for 10. So, at this time, as we begin our descent, don't really have a whole lot of descent preparations that need to be done inside of the DA62, other than seatbelt checks, door checks, things like that. There's no major things to do inside of the DA62 currently, as we're beginning our descent into Waukesha. So, at this time, I'm just going to slightly start to pull back on the power just so we don't overspeed. We're just in the yellow range, doing about 180 or 20, just above our green range. So, as we begin our descent here, we've already got the approach up here, which as you can see on the approach plate, we'll be turning it over Waka. So, I will get back to you as we just get a little bit closer on the approach. Right, we're back, just getting ready for the approach here. We're down level at 2,300, just pulling back on the power. We should be getting our approach clearance here any momentarily to start turning in.
You don't like 6 miles from Waka, turn right heading 0, maintain 2,300, tell established on a localizer, cleared ILS, runway 10 approach.
Alright, 070, 2,300 till we're established on the localizer, and we're cleared the ILS 10 into Waukesha for 62 Delta Mike. Alright, so here we are now, and now we're just going to get ready to start turning. 2 Delta Mike, Waco. Alright, we're just getting ready to start our turn here, and we're just turning in here over Waka, turning to a heading at 070, getting ready to be set up on the localizer. Verify that's in our nav1, which is 109.5, and should have the identifier as ISKC, which we have here on our PFD. We'll now come here, click CDI, come over to localizer. We'll see our glide slopes not alive there, but we do have the field in sight just up there at about our 2 o'clock or so. Localizer's not coming in though. We're on 070 heading, and once we're down below 136 knots, we'll go ahead and deploy our first notch of flaps. Alright, so here we are, 2,300, and the localizer should start coming in here any moment now or so. And there we go, localizer alive. We'll go and come here and arm our approach mode now, which once it gets the localizer here, it'll go ahead and turn ourselves on the localizer And there we go, localizer is now captured and the autopilot is taking over to turn us on localizer for 1-0 at Waukesha. So here we are as we now get established, and the glide slope will come in here in just about another 2.5 miles or so. So we'll go on now, start slowing down here. And as we do, we're now below 136 knots, so we can go and take our first notch of flaps now, which you'll now see back here as the first notch of flaps now comes down. We'll also now go and deploy our landing gear as we are below 205 knots out of just 120 now. We'll increase our power speed. We got it 3 green, down and locked. We'll turn on our landing taxi lights, give us a little bit of brightness outside the windows. We do have the field in sight. DA62 data bike is fully established. We have the field in sight, and we would like to go and cancel our IFR.
DA62 data bike cancellation of IFR received. Squawk VFR for change of route for radio system distributed today.
Alright, well, Squawk maintain VFR. We're going over to advisory now. 62 Delta Mike, have a great day. We'll go ahead and come down here to our transponder, and we'll now go and select VFR. And now we can go ahead and get off their frequency, and we can go ahead and go over to the Unicom for Waukesha. And the CTAF is 123.7. Waukesha traffic, have a Diamond DA62 twin just passing over Wauka at a 2,200 on the ILS, 10 full stop at Waukesha. Alright, here we are, 2,200 glide slopes capture, we're below 119, we'll put out our landing flaps now, and we still do have the field in sight coming down on the glide slope, and this is all being done by the autopilot in the DA62. We have our final landing checks. Our flaps are down. Landing flaps are selected. Landing gear is down. 3 green and locked. Lights are set. Panel lights are set. And I am all happy in the panel. I have no any other things to turn on. Alternators are on. Masters are still on. Pitot heat is still on. ELT is armed. I have nothing else to do in this case except fly the approach down to minimums and then disengage the autopilot and take over. As we're just coming up here, just passing a 3-mile final now. So it's a very stable approach. Obviously right now it's a really beautiful night here at Waukesha. Isn't a whole lot of weather out. We do have a slight bit of a tailwind that'll be coming in as we come in final here. We currently have a 4-knot tailwind, but that's okay for right now. But the DA62, here's the minimums. We'll go and press the red button on the stick. Go ahead and disengage our autopilot. And now we'll go ahead and fly the approach all the way down to the runway, and we can still follow that localizer and that glide slope in, even though we're now past our minimums. So, as we come down here, we'll just go ahead and like to slow down. As I come over the approach lights, I like to be just around 85 to 90 knots. Don't want to be a bit too quick, but the DA62 does have very hefty brakes and does not take up a whole lot of distance to touch down. So here we are just out of 95, coming out of 1200, just slightly above the glide slope, still 2 red, 2 white on glide path. And on glide path, like we said, just coming about 95, now 93, coming over the approach lights, still slightly above, just coming down on glide path, still on localizer, we still have the field in sight. And as we come down here, we're just going to trim ourselves out just a bit, relieve some of that back pressure. And we have runway identified, runway 10, and it shows us arriving now at Waukesha. Coming down still on the glide slope at a 90 knots, and like I said, we'll hit for our touchdown point at just around 85. And here we are, touchdown point just at 85, 83, we'll go idle, and smooth touchdown just at 75 knots, and 78 feet per minute. And we do have a fair bit of runway here at Waukesha, so we don't really have to use a whole lot of braking to slow ourselves down. Alright, here we are, and now we'll just go and vacate here at Bravo and taxi over to our parking here at Waukesha. Oh, and it looks like I actually just passed Bravo, so we'll actually make the turn here on Charlie coming up. Go and make the left turn in here onto Bravo, correction onto Charlie, and then as we turn off here, we can go ahead and turn off our landing lights, leave our taxi lights on as we taxi into parking. inside here. Go and pull our flaps up now. I'm going to make a nice swinging wide turn here and go and park the 62. Actually, just park ourselves right here on the north ramp, just up near 1A. And then just go ahead and stop the aircraft here. The aircraft stop, we'll go ahead and set our parking brake, and we'll go through our shutdown checks. For the shutdown checks, I'll go ahead and come here and turn off both masters on the left and right engine, and then we'll have both engines stop here. At which point we can verify both engines are off and stopped. We can then go ahead and turn off the alternators for both engines, go ahead and take off the safety guards, and put the fuel control back into the off position. Close up our center console there, verify the engine levers are still idle, and gear is still down, flaps are up, and we can go ahead and turn off the pitot heat, our avionics master, and then we will go ahead and come here and take the electrical master off. There's our electrical master off. You'll now have the G1000 going through its self-shutdown sequence, as well as our emergency standby instruments. We'll go through the 60 seconds that they have, unless you needed them on, in this case if we lost emergency power, which we did not. So, I would like to say thank you for everyone watching this video. This has been a introduction flight, a very short and small introduction flight into the Vertx aircraft Diamond DA62 for Prepared 3D from Lockheed Martin version 4. If you have any questions regarding the Diamond DA62, I recommend you visit us at vertxsim.com or our Facebook page at Vertx Sim or Vertx Flight Simulation, as well as our Instagram page, or feel free to join our Discord chat in the link below, where anyone is free to ask questions, submit screenshots, or post any recommendations for any future projects or upcoming support for the Diamond DA62. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to you watching our other videos, which will go further in depth with the Diamond DA62 and explain systems like the fuel systems, engine controls, as well as a video that will go in depth with the Garmin G1000 inside of the DA62. Thank you for your time. Like, comment, subscribe. Please hit that bell next to the subscribe button. It helps us all out, and it'll also keep you up to date whenever new videos come out about upcoming products or any upcoming updates to our current aircraft. I thank you again for your time, and have a wonderful day.